Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your presence today. I wish to highlight some key initiatives for the Ministry of National Security for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on the budget. For budgetary purposes, the following departments fall under the Ministry of National Security: Ministry Headquarters, the Bermuda Police Service, the Department of Corrections, the Bermuda Fire and Rescue Service, the Royal Bermuda Regiment, and the Customs Department. The ministry has been allocated an operational budget of $131,334,000, which is an increase of $6,621,000, or 5%, over the current fiscal year. In addition, over $5 million has been allocated for capital expenditure as part of our commitment to working together to keep you safe. The ministry has allocated over $1 million for CCTV upgrades for the Bermuda Police Service and Corrections. This allocation includes funds for an island-wide CCTV system, which you have heard about in recent weeks. I'm excited about this technology as it will help to identify suspects in the event of criminal activity, serve as a deterrent to potential criminals, and provide increased safety for our community. Some $3 million in the budget will be used to acquire new equipment, including vehicles for the Bermuda Police Service, Corrections, and the Bermuda Fire and Rescue Service to replace vehicles at the end of their service life. Concerning the police service, the ministry is acutely aware of the challenges to the service when it involves maintaining its large fleet of vehicles, which the service relies upon to carry out its operations. I am pleased that next year's funding is an increase on this year's and will enable even more vehicles to be replaced. The ministry's operational budget represents a more than $6,600,000 increase over this fiscal year. These funds will be used to hire additional firefighters, police officers, customs officers, corrections officers, and staff for the Coast Guard. Some 41 posts are being refunded over the current financial year. These will provide job opportunities for Bermudians and meet our mission statement of working together to keep you safe. Violence and antisocial behavior continue to affect our island home. Sadly, more recently, we have seen males and females as young as 14 involved in violent exchanges to resolve their disputes. Tackling this problem continues to be the ministry's focus, and the budget for the 2023-2024 fiscal year reflects that. This government continues to support the Bermuda Police Service, which is critical in our multi-pronged approach to combating gangs and violence. The Bermuda Police Service budget is being increased. The increase will allow the police service to boost its resources to investigate crime and to ensure that professional officers with the necessary experience are a crucial part of its response to serious crime. This includes funds for hiring additional dedicated parish constables. There are as many as 157 criminals who have used firearms to either kill or attempt to kill another person and have not yet faced justice. Bringing those persons to justice will have a dramatic positive impact on our community's safety. To this end, funds have been provided to hire experienced detectives to help solve these cases and bring these criminals to justice and get them off our streets. We are also spending an additional $325,000 on a gang violence reduction team to boost several focused programs for at-risk youth. This increase will provide much-needed assistance to vulnerable youth, giving them better life choices and options away from a life of gangs and antisocial behavior. The funding will also enable an increase in counseling services being offered for those that have been affected by violence. Increased funding is also being provided to the Department of Corrections to expand programs for inmates to better prepare them for successful reintegration into society upon release. We are boosting spending to hire more officers within the Customs Department and the Coast Guard to tighten our borders, something I have repeatedly said would help to stop the flow of the importation of weapons and illicit drugs into our community. As we move further from the height of the pandemic, we have seen an increase in travelers both at the airport and on cruise ships. The trend is for even more over the next fiscal year. This inevitably leads to the increased risk for Bermuda, and it is important that the Customs Department is staffed to mitigate those risks. The Customs Department has been given additional funds to bolster the number of personnel and intends to run 2 recruitment exercises during fiscal year 2023-2024. This boost will support the activities across the department, but with a particular focus on enhancing marine and airport operations. During the 2023-2024 fiscal year, the government has allocated $14,880,000 to the Bermuda Fire and Rescue Service. This allotment reflects an increase of $1,668,000, or 13%, over the previous fiscal year. Funds have been set aside during the budgetary year to ensure the Bermuda Fire and Rescue Service will recruit 21 additional firefighters for airport operations. The application period for these posts has just closed, and the successful applicants will be trained to replace the overseas firefighters at the airport. 10 local recruits from the last recruitment drive have recently completed 6 weeks of intense training in the United Kingdom. I look forward to their passing out parade on Monday. The new firefighters returned on the 26th of February, having successfully obtained certification as Airport Rescue Fire Service firefighters. These firefighters will provide fire protection for the Aleph Reed International Airport and replace 10 of the temporary contract firefighters from overseas. The increased 2023-2024 budget will enable the ministry to meet our mission of working together to keep you safe. I would now be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Minister, for your briefing. At this time, we're going to invite members of the media to come up to the mic. Starting with Jasmine Patterson from Bermuda Broadcasting.
Good morning, Minister. How are you?
Morning.
Thank you for your comments. So an increase in budget for the hiring of additional resources. When it comes to the firefighters, can you confirm how many of the overseas firefighters you'll need to retain until the rest of the Bermudian cohort can be trained up?
Well, at this time, Jasmine, we have just finished training 10 local firefighters that will replace 10 overseas firefighters. We have another recruitment class that is just finished, so they too will be going through the process of training. So the next 2 or 3 months, well, I don't want to cut it short, say 3 to 6 months, these firefighters will be trained up to the point of being airport personnel. So in the meantime, up to 15 overseas firefighters will be there until we get the additional recruits that are necessary.
Sure. And are you expecting to retain those firefighters for at least the next year?
I don't want to put a time on it, but what I do want to say excitedly is that this current firefighter recruitment drive yielded 285 applicants. So this is higher than it has been in recent years. So we are guardedly optimistic that we will get the required firefighters that we need.
Sure. Now, has there been any revisions? I know we've talked about this in the past, revisions to the application process in terms of the psych assessments and other tests before recruits can be considered?
Now, those revisions are still ongoing, and once complete, I will take them as a information paper to cabinet, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Sure. Now, it's my understanding that overseas firefighters are granted housing allowance. Is that true?
At this point in time, the overseas firefighters are living at St. George's Club, and there is a $4,000 or $4,300 housing monthly allotment.
Sure. Now, would that have caused any conflict with perhaps local firefighters that you're aware of?
Well, I understand the concern of our local unions, our Fire Service Association union, and those concerns are not unheard. But in order for us to get the firefighters at such a short notice, based on the new international requirements, we had to do things to entice people to come here. So we never intended for any long-term benefits given to a foreign firefighter that a local firefighter would not be entitled to.
Okay. And that's $4,300 per month for each?
At this point in time, yes.
Thank you very much. Just going back to the CCTV upgrades, in terms of the scope of it, how would you describe the island-wide system? Is this going to be on every main road, or are you looking at residential areas? How wide will this scope be?
Well, this new CCTV system that we have just about to award a vendor will involve 265 cameras, and they will be island-wide.
And this will be from Dockyard to St. George's.
Dockyard to
Right.
St. George's, North Shore to South Shore.
And will this upgrade include speed cameras at all?
Well, these cameras will have the capability because they are updated and modern cameras, so they have that capability. So as the cameras get in place, the upgrades will come.
Sure. Okay, thank you. The president of the Corrections Union, Timothy Sion, had some concerns a while ago about the infrastructure challenges at many of the facilities, including Westgate, in terms of air circulation, et cetera. Has any changes been made in that area?
Well, those changes, Jasmine, are always ongoing, and we are definitely making sure that funds have been allocated for the maintenance and upgrade of the prison facilities.
Have you updated the union on these changes as yet?
We meet with the union regularly. Yeah, so they know, and we are on the same page that there are things that need to be done, and they are being addressed.
Thank you. And one last question. The scanner at the Hamilton docks, that was on the wayside in terms of its age. Will this be replaced anytime soon, or will there still be funds pumped into maintaining it?
At this point in time, there is a vigorous maintenance schedule that's going on. If there's any change to that and they look to replacement, then we will let the public know.
And just how valuable is that scanner on the docks?
Well, that's very valuable to us and for the customs in doing their job in protecting our borders. You know, that's one tool that they use to scan goods as they come into the country.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. At this time, we're going to invite Jonathan Bell from the Royal Gazette.
Thank you, Jariah, and thanks, Minister.
Morning, Jonathan.
Morning, sir. Oh, yeah. So you mentioned increased spending for inmates facing release from prison. Did I catch that?
Increased spending for programs up at Westgate to ensure that the inmates who are being released are better prepared for reintegration to society.
Can you expand on that at all? I've had folks get in touch with me about, we used to have a halfway house apparently, program of that nature where there was sort of set up better for their release. I've had people telling me that I guess inmates could be better prepared for their reintegration back into society.
Well, these funds that I spoke of in my brief are intended for the programs that's within the prison, i.e. Educational programs to help them have better tools when they leave the prison.
In terms of psychological services within prisons, within within the prison system, where are we at with that? It sounded like the staffing that had flagged in recent years. Is there going to be an increase in those types of services?
Most definitely. I think they were one complement, Don, of our psychologists, and that is being filled as we speak.
Righto. Jasmine touched on our Canadian guest workers at the airport. I think, in your budget brief, you said that the plan was to phase these workers out over this coming year. I guess would that be contingent on the local recruiting? You said you're optimistic at the number of applicants that we've just had. If we fall short, should that happen, are we going to need to retain these folks for longer?
Well, based on the new international requirements, there is a complement of firefighters is needed at the airport. So if we cannot get get the complement that we need locally, then we have to look at our options. But we are optimistic that having a recruitment pool of 285, that the possibility is very high that we will get the local recruitment that we're looking for.
Gotcha. You mentioned police recruit school. That's next month, isn't it? Are they're on track to get the new officers? I believe this is on ZBM last night. The recruit school for police next month?
To start a new recruitment class?
Yeah, I believe so. It sounded like they were having some difficulty getting their numbers up for the recruits for police.
I cannot answer that at this point in time.
Okay. Last one for me, and you touched on it. You mentioned gang violence reduction, hiring of new detectives. I guess this is, whenever we ask about this, I mean, we do understand, obviously, when it comes to tackling gang violence, there's only so much you can tell us, but is it any further detail that you can give on that in terms of perhaps number of people that you're looking to hire, where they might be coming from, to do with the whole gang violence prevention?
Well, yeah, Jonathan, what we are doing is we have given the gang violence reduction team additional funds to help them implement some programs in combating community violence. And at this point in time, I want to take the opportunity to implore the public that this is not a gang violence issue, this is a community violence issue. And as a community, we're going to address it. But in the meantime, the gang violence reduction team is doing all that it can, and I wholeheartedly support what they're doing in our schools, in our streets, and our neighborhoods.
And that was the one that you mentioned that was going to be getting $325,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you, Royal Gazette and Bermuda Broadcasting, for your questions. Thank you, Minister, for your presentation. That concludes today's news conference.